anything, and we can,
Hey,
if we remember, we can do an official start. But
that's my informal. It's our official intro.
that's your official start. Yeah, there's a. I was thinking about a few different podcasts, and there's like some are so hyper produced, and some are just start and people are talking, you have no idea. I don't
That's
know.
how we start.
I don't know where that's going. It's I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
it's just that there's a nice range. You can do whatever, and there's
But
someone else who
I
can be like, well,
listened
that's what
probably
they
in the
do, and they're
tutorial Māori.
successful.
I don't actually know how many podcasts start. It has a song. It does
Really?
have a song. So but yeah, I was just
Yeah.
talking about kind of our whānaki processes and then developing AI and just kind of working on those AI tools that allow us to do more with less time, and scale up our capacity, I think, and free up our capacity at the same time, our thinking capacity. So yeah, it's been some crazy things, crazy potentials. But I know that, yeah, I know we. I don't know. This ain't the topic for the
Yeah.
for the podcast. Hey, what AI tools are you using for transcribing your meetings? Um, but yeah, that's just something that's happening
Yeah.
in the background.
Nice. Yeah, I was, like, of course, like generative AI and stuff is always in the news and it's in like our work. And I was just thinking, like, I was just thinking, sometimes I look at it and I'm just like, um, is this even like worth engaging with? But then it's like,
Yep.
or I could take the approach
Yeah.
like, how do I get this to a point where it is like valuable, rather than just like making a
That's
judgment
I
on
think
where it
that's
is
the
currently,
critical
which
thing.
obviously is
It's like
not going to be there for
how
long.
do I fully appreciate or utilize the value within this, and how do I use it to contribute to a greater purpose that is not that's
Mm,
a whānaki purpose. Because man, like just the ability to go onto
yeah.
ChatGPT and if you, I was trying to do something like manually for like and once if I did one and I was trying to do it 100 times, it'll take like 10 minutes. But then I just asked ChatGPT, hey, how do I code this and how do I make it faster? And I press the button and
Mm,
boom, it's done. Transcribing. We had a family meeting, um, and we were like, okay, we established a trust. Who's taking the minutes? And I was just thinking, I will, because I'll use I'll use AI to just go through and then tease
yeah.
out the key emotions. Like you could ask
Nice.
when you anytime someone passes a motion or uses specific language around
Yeah.
motions, then capture that and output that. So yeah, that's it's just how to experience. So how to capture the value and yeah, make it work.
Yeah. How do you make it worth, or how do you make it valuable, and rather than just go, oh, this content's
Yeah,
average, or, it's like, how do we get it to a point where it is adding value, and how do we apply that in our work? And that's what I was thinking, like, I guess the other thing about AI is it's amazing at doing certain things right now. That might change, but for now, it's really good at like iterating on things, processing things, right? And so if we can provide it like but it's very iterative, right? So if it doesn't have novelty, if it doesn't have
mm,
fresh, uh, what is it, like feedstock,
mm.
for it to work with, then it can become like a little bit like repetitive
But
and samey. And so then I'm thinking, well, like, how do we? Because I think we may have talked about this, and I wrote it down, starting to talk about it. It's like if you look around at the patterns and what's happening in civilization, it's like people are becoming more and more
mm,
robot. Well, they're being forced to behave in a way that's very machine-like, and then we are trying to get machines to be very human. And it's a lot of people have made this joke, which is amazing. But why do I have
yeah,
to prove to a robot online that I'm a human? Like, why am I proving to a robot that I'm human? And so it's like, and I was thinking about that. It's like all those little captchas and like picking the things. That's like
yeah.
an not infinite, but that's a massive data set for robots to understand how to prove they're human. It's like it's literally feeding.
That
data on how would a human prove it's
Yeah, I think
human.
there's a
So there's all
competition or
these
something.
little
Yeah, yeah,
like
like
weird,
the robot that can prove
yeah,
it's the most human or something like that. But yeah, it's crazy because that's such a
yeah,
man. I've worked jobs and I'm like they're desk jobs. I'm just thinking this could be automated. This could literally, if you had like
yeah,
computer
yeah,
imagery or what
yeah,
does they say what is it called? Is it image capture technology that you have now? You can just read the files and then just read them in and just catch like it could all be
oh yeah,
processed out. So yeah, I've felt like working like a robot. So every time I feel like, am I being robotic? I
yeah,
always think, can AI do this faster than me? Because why would I run to the
yeah,
next town if I could drive? And that's just like,
yeah,
unless you were wanting to achieve some other benefits. I want to improve my handwriting, so I'm going to write this ten
yeah,
thousand word essay
yeah,
myself. Or I'm alright with handwriting. I'll just type it out. So
yeah,
it's trying to figure out where AI can come in, and I think
yeah,
there is a bit of a barrier like a barrier to entry into um, taking the robotic jobs that you do or the robotic things in life and then automating them out. But the scary thing too is you could be automated out as well. And I think if it came to paying AI or paying a human to do a job that's a robotic, monotonous job in our society, in this game A society, you're gonna get AI'd out. So it's I think we've had
yeah,
conversations before, about how
yeah,
do we lean into the non
100%.
AI kind of capabilities of humanity and that used to be like the arts. The arts was something a human like a robot couldn't do and now you got generative AI.
Yeah, bro, I saw like AI stand up comedy, and it was four guys, and there was like the four comedians were there, or five of them, and then they would play like this AI comedy, and I think it was it was pretty nuts. That would be one of the last things that a year ago I would have thought was at risk, and they were all like, "Man, what almost all of them said
Yeah.
is the delivery is not as good, like the cadence and stuff, but the writing is already better." They were nailing their style. Like they were in like hysterics. They were just like they're all just talking trash to each other like you're clearly replaced. And so it's an
Yeah.
interesting it'll be interesting
I think
long.
in a game B future, there's definitely a role. So it's how do you like the big waka, the big canoe that is AI that's
Yeah.
steering, going hard out into this game A future. Like, what is steering it into game B?
Yeah.
Like, what is that even? Mm.
Yeah, and we're not saying that there's one solution or whatever. We are Funaki Foundry, I think, is working on this like positive future that isn't what's the word?
Mm.
It's not like a Luddite aspiration to abandon all technology. It's like how can all of these components of civilization be positive, be net positives for all of the components of it. And we talked last week, I think, really excitingly about what are how would an animist spacefaring society or relational based society explore the cosmos, what would
Mm.
drive it versus like an extractive one, and that was really
You
cool.
you know the movie Wall-E when they're on the spaceship and everyone's on
Yeah,
self-driving floating chairs and all the food's made and it's kind of a dystopian. It's a humorous dystopia where you lose your humanity and everything AI
yeah,
it takes over everything and does everything. So what is what is a human centered, I suppose, and maybe an ecosystem centered, planet centered expansion. Ooh, I don't like the word expansion. It seems overtaking.
yeah,
I think we talked last week about the balance between, yeah. So maybe,
yeah. Well, we
yes,
were
relational.
yeah. I
Yeah.
guess instead of expanding, like we were talking about connecting, right? Like how do we connect with more of the components of the galaxy whether that's star systems or civilizations or ecosystems on other planets, like can that be a shared aspiration for that civilization to increase the connectivity? Because yeah, we were talking about were we talking about that like as a measure? How do you
Mm,
measure progress on this wisdom or alternative card, the social Kardashev scale? How do you actually measure progress? Because it's easy for them to measure energy harnessing, or it's easier. And like we were talking about, how can you just
mm.
measure the quantity
And
and
just kind of
quality
going off that back into
of
AI
connections?
yarns,
Of
it's
yeah,
it's like how can we're here, we're creating content, we have a limited amount of time in the day. How at an operational level now do we lean into AI to help write out content and capture? And so that's kind of one of the things that we've
mm,
been trying to look at. I'm not trying to say that I need to write that blog for the next session real soon, but I haven't done it.
yeah,
but that's something I'm trying to
yeah,
figure out. How do we scale? How do we
yeah,
use AI to do? One of the things that One of the other things that we were talking about for our podcast say is reacting to video content. I would love to put a video up right now and just like kind of
mm,
just dissect it, but maybe that's I don't know. I think we've been asked about why we haven't chosen to put our faces out there. Do you think maybe we talk a bit about that? One of the things that we've wanted to do
yeah,
is for the kaupapa and not necessarily put our face to it because I think I just one of the things that I was thinking about was that when you put a face, then the whole kaupapa is associated with the face. The whole whatever you're talking about is associated with the face and the brand and the influence of the person. And then if you take that away, then the kaupapa can't maybe survive or thrive. So it's trying to figure out how could we just have people coming and going, but the kaupapa
yeah,
maintaining itself. But yeah, that was one. That was one of the reasons. There's probably more reasons as we unpack them.
yeah. The continuity, and it just seemed to align better with
Mm.
a
Yeah.
decentralized, more resilient,
Mm.
more forest-like system structure. Was that it's not that the
Yeah.
individuals aren't important, but if yeah, we were trying to make it in a way where a lot of the
Mm.
momentum isn't lost as people come and go.
One of the other reasons I think we chose to kind of remove our face from it was also to lean into technology and AI providing the services that people would otherwise do. So we were coming into a middle where I think we got asked who takes the
Mm,
minutes for our meetings. We did get asked that, and I was thinking, oh man, like literally we can get a app in every meeting to transcribe now, and then we can tease out all the main motions and then put it into a Word document. So that isn't with our limited resource, we can't really allocate a whole person to do that. But what we can do is pipeline that stream of work,
mm,
and and that kind of work be managed by an avatar, and that's kind of why we've got our silicon avatars. Someone that's our administrator or someone that does the
yeah,
video editing process, and then we would work with the avatars, with the generative AI as an avatar for a graphic designer, and we would work as if they were a graphic designer. We would work with them, say, "Oh, this is what we want here and here and here." Um, that was one of the I suppose that was why we
mm,
have our kind of silicon based team members, and we would be us as the carbon based team members. But yeah, I think
yeah,
the other the other reason we didn't want to put our faces out there was because the structure that we wanted to operate, we didn't want to have a legal entity where we were the directors. We wanted and where we would make all the decisions and where we would be the kind of
mm,
the leaders. We would want we want this the eventual establishment
yeah,
of a network, and anyone in that network could be the face, both of the podcast of the brand, um,
yeah,
or of the actual operations of the kind of business or operational aspects, everyone had a kind of equal say. And so that was us trying to navigate that tricky space where if you want to do anything, you always someone has to be the face of it, um, and with that comes a lot of responsibilities and preconceptions of what a kaupapa is. So yeah, it's kind of I just why not? Have a try.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is that, we're here saying we're exploring, different
Mm,
futures or we're futurists think tank or different ways of describing what we're actually doing. And then if we just did everything in the same traditional way, it seems like it's not that
mm,
valuable to add into. There's a lot of people doing it the normal way where if you look around, a big part of everything that's
mm,
happening now is like each person is a brand. Their identity is a brand. Like it's gone so extreme
mm,
because anyone can make content, and that's really there's huge positives to that. But it's also like everyone their personal characteristics, everything about them is their brand, is their business, and it's all sort of
mm.
mixed together. And so we're just, I guess,
Our whole
trying an
yeah.
alternative where um, our name and our personality and all that isn't the brand. And I think you nailed it. Let's try other things. Like, we're in a place and we're in a
Mm,
situation that's not working well. So why would we keep trying to repeat the ways of doing things that have gotten us here? And
mm,
there's also the punk aspect of the anonymity and being more comfortable to speak really honestly, and especially during a
mm,
transitionary phase. If you want to try and make this battle, or not battle, but if you want to speak freely, and sometimes it's going to be critical of gay may, or it's going to be open and honest. Um, I think it's more likely that us and anyone else that comes along will feel free
yeah,
to be honest and
yeah,
true with what they express. And that's one of the most important things, I think, if you're trying to chart a new path,
yeah.
and you're worried about someone saying, "Oh, I heard your podcast. You said X." That's against company
So it's a safe, like
policy
a
to
safe
have a
space,
view
an
on
inside
whatever.
space, and hopefully it can be a safe space for others. Because we were thinking it would be cool to bring people on and talk to people at some point once we've
Yeah,
kind of fleshed a few things out. But it would be cool to maybe protect their identity, or if they were
yeah,
open to sharing who they were, but maybe they would be able to share more things more freely. But like I think of Sia, the artist.
yeah.
She's has her hair in front of her, no one knows who she is, type of
Oh
thing. But
yeah,
if you Google Sia, you'll find her face. Like it's not trying to be completely anonymous. Don't
yeah,
want anyone to know who we are.
yeah,
It's just that what we're putting out there, we don't want that to be immediately associated
yeah,
with our faces, with who we are. We want it to be associated with the
yeah,
the mission, the objectives, and the
yeah.
inspiring vision. And anyone can be a part of that, and anyone can lead it.
That's a very good point.
I love thinking of the forest
Nah, it's so
analogy, and I
good.
think because we live next to forests, it's real easy for us to connect to. There's a track next in the
Yeah.
mountain range here, and there are a lot of Cody trees. We got a few, they're about three big ones on the way, and there's a few others in there.
Oh yeah.
But it's yeah, it's kind of like
Nice.
all trees have a role, and there are multiple types in a flourishing forest. There's Cody, Totara, Rimu, Kaikatea, wherever. Um, and if one of them falls, the forest continues and flourishes, and it's a part of the cycle. And so that's kind of like if the whole forest relied on one never falling, um,
Yeah.
then that'd kind of be there wouldn't be a thriving
Yeah.
ecosystem. But when a Cody falls, or when a small kawa plant, whatever it does its thing, the forest comes through, and so it's kind of yeah, build our kaupapa like a forest.
Yeah, that's interesting in the analogy of setting up Funuki Foundry so people can naturally come and go. But then I'm thinking about your analogy and when a giant tree falls down, or leaves, I guess, but it leaves
Mm,
with it this immense mass of nutrients, right? That are then shared from its individual. even though there's a lot of coming and going in the metabolism of the individual tree, more or less those resources are in itself, and when it moves on, when it dies, it falls down, then it returns this immense amount of building blocks for other things to play with and to live off of.
I think whanake must be like the mycelium. I think you've
Yeah,
had a few yarns in all the soil within and its ability to retain what you've shared in your time here, and its ability to
yeah,
share that and distribute that amongst others so it can continue thriving. And we we recognize that in our kind of individual workspaces. We were talking with a lot of people, and some people were like awesome people coming and going, but then there was no continuity, something holding that all together.
yeah. It's a classic. Yeah. It's a classic for everything, every passion project, every alternative that isn't making billions of dollars from game A is that they all are often driven by someone who's really passionate, and then something
Mm,
changes or they die or they need to earn money or whatever, and then the momentum's lost, and then someone else is like, hey, this problem's here, and they're probably going to come to many of the same conclusions, and then if without the continuity, then I'm going to input all this time and energy to come to the same conclusions 10 million other people have come to,
mm,
instead of just going, oh, well, they got here. Okay, like let me keep going, you know? And that, like, the co-papas can have the missions, can have,
mm.
they persist, and then people can come in and people can leave, and we don't waste too much of the progress, you know? That's, I guess, was our strategic thinking around, because this is this like, it's not an easy task. Game A is dominant. Game A is really effective. We have to be so clever about whenever anyone can put energy into alternatives, you don't want to waste any of that progress or energy that
Mm.
is able to be put in. And sometimes it's short periods or in bursts, right? And I think that was really important. I mean, again, not a unique
Yeah.
realization, but we're trying to establish a structure through the tools we have now, through DAOs, and not making it about a person and building a brand that's person agnostic, or even
Mm. Yeah.
person or AI agent, you know, like we're trying to. I was thinking about that when you're talking about the agents as well, which is a trend that we just see. There's already agents, but we think that it's likely it'll be more and more like interacting with a being, whatever that is, right? Like it'll be probably more like interacting with another person,
Mm.
as time goes on, to get services out of different AIs, right? And that just, in one way, it's just adding a lot of fluidity. If we don't make it super relevant, whether it's carbon-based intelligence or silicon or whatever, if in Funky Foundry, if in how it presents information and shares value, if it doesn't make it super
Mm.
important, if it's a carbon or silicon base, and it just allows more
Yeah.
fluidity, and more
And I think one
fluidity
of the important
seems
points,
useful for sustaining
if we
long
make the
term, right?
distinction that it doesn't matter if it's carbon or silicon, the immediate response is, oh, so if robots are all working, and what's everyone else doing? What? It's taking everyone's jobs, but that's in a game A context. Because when it's in a game B context,
Yeah.
they'll be relieving, work and labor so that people can do what people want to do because there is no need to do those things. You can live, you can play, you can thrive because the labor's been outsourced to AI or collaboratively done with AI. And that's kind of why that it shouldn't be as within a game B context. The difference of who's doing the mahi shouldn't really as matter. You can do it if you want to do it or feel fulfilled, or if it has to be done, and it doesn't matter if it's carbon or silicon. But as long as the outcomes are going back to the people, community, ecosystems, and not being shipped, all the outcomes are being shipped off to shareholders or another country like they currently are, then then yeah, that's something that's worth exploring and thinking about.
It's so interesting how, like, it's like our whole modern economy, game A, it's built around all these leakages of value, where value is, people are inputting their time and their value, and then value is being created, and then a lot of that value is not going back to the place, the
Mm.
land, or the people that in large part created it, right? And then it's going somewhere,
Yep.
and there's like
These
all
sinks,
these
value sinks that are
leakages,
just
right? In these
draining,
flows.
well-being.
Yeah, I know. I think yeah. So that's been our thinking. I think around why we don't highlight our names, and
Mm.
like you said,
Yeah.
it's not like it's a deep black. You need
Mm.
have to work for the CIA to figure it out. We're not hiding it. We're just not promoting it, right? Like you could do probably a little internet research,
Yeah.
um, the one or two people that ask
Mm.
us, and figure it out pretty quick, right? It's not hidden, but it's not highlighted.
It's
Like
like
not
that's
take the
that's
credit.
single-handedly changed the whole lot of technology and how we can interact and why we can have these conversations around potentials for DAO. And if we have a
Yeah,
whanake, worldwide whanake network, then like working on the top of blockchain and having these types of principles, shared values around animism, game B, and solar punk would just be wicked. Because then, no, it'll just be choice, but it'll take a while.
100%. And I think, it's really interesting exploring AI. I think what we've been talking about is not the type of analysis that I've been reading about it. And it makes me think, like, why don't we think about it? We talk game B and we talk about hyper collaboration as one of their like principles of that alternative system.
Mm,
And it's like, obviously game A forces displacement. You just talked about that, but like how do you think of like what how do we think about people and other
mm,
types of intelligence and maximizing collaboration, and instead of that's a game B way of thinking about it, right? How do we create systems where instead of being concerned about displacement, we're like, oh, what cool opportunities are there now for hyper collaboration between human and other types of intelligences? And that's what I was trying to get at a little bit of when I was saying for now, if the how AI generates things is mostly iterative on what it's fed, then it would seem like humans, if they can, would seem like the most useful and secure, depending on how you want to look at it,
mm,
contribution that a human could make would be to add novelty. And then the silicon, the digital intelligence, if it's
mm.
incredible at iterating, then you want a human feeding in novelty, and you want the digital iterating,
Computational work, eh?
organizing, doing that type of uh, yeah, producing it, sharing, like distributing it, and then you just want creative, and then you want
Mm,
creativity and novelty fed into that system so that it stays fresh. You know what I mean? And so it's like that's what I was thinking about. You've been working with AI
yeah.
agents. We've been talking about how can we have dialogue, how can we have discourse, and then generate useful stuff from that. And that's how I'm thinking of this, like how can we through our talks and this time generate novelty, and then how can we leverage AI to share that in a useful way that
Mm,
doesn't just add a lot of fluff out there, you know? And I think I initially was thinking really like I was looking at it the wrong way and thinking, oh, look what it produces now. Is it valuable? Is it that interesting? Or is it just really derivative? But
yeah.
that's the wrong question. It's
Like
how do we
in my mind,
leverage it to
I think
take?
of AI's got as it is, as I've kind of exploring, as I've been exploring it and working with it. It's got input and output, and the inputs can be like general everything, and that's where you get um, just repetitive outputs, or it can be your own inputs, and so that's like how can we give it whanake input? How can we create data and give it, and it can create something meaningful for us? And then it's got like another thing I went in is there's inputs that like whakapapa that's online, like but that's held by a certain iwi. Like there are some inputs that almost consent based inputs that shouldn't be, and so if it's already accessing it with unconsented or access to that, maybe it's indigenous knowledge, then does your utilization of the
Mm,
AI mean you're partaking in that
yep,
exploitation of that knowledge? So then those are the input parameters or barriers, things to
yep,
consider. And then the output is okay, so is this output going to be contributing positively to society, or just going to be improving shareholder wealth, or is it going to be just every 500 people are going to lose their jobs at this place because of this? And so that's that balance of
Yeah.
like yeah looking at AI as a tool, and then looking at its inputs and its outputs within the social context, and then even the
Mm.
tool itself is capital, and so whoever gets to make the decisions of input and output is who gets to make the decisions on input and output is whoever holds the capital. And I think I saw a video pop up, and it was of the founder of, I
Mm.
don't know if it's the founder of CEO, Sam Altman, OpenAI. He said, we always thought it was about whoever has the algorithm and whoever's to make the best use out of the input, make output data. But it's actually the computational power, which is like who's just got the most money to have the most grunt to just smash out all
Mm.
everything. And so it comes back to a capital power discussion again.
It's so interesting how that's now the limiting factor. It's just compute power, and it's just like how much compute power can we harness, and it's almost like I don't know, back
Yeah.
to maybe an earlier phase in the Industrial Revolution or something when it's just like we don't have enough raw energy.
Well, it's we've talked about AI a lot in this session, and kind of its role in
Yeah.
our operations, both as AI avatars and us as carbon avatars, carbon-based, silicon-based avatars. Um, and yeah, it's just figuring out
Yeah.
where what is the role of AI in a game be in a whanake future.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess for me, my takeaway or closing thoughts on what we discussed today, it's just around. I think it's really important to just try things and be open and to allow yourself to go back to first principles and just like, well, what if we try it like this? What if we try it like this? And it's really easy
Mm,
to start down the assumption chain a bunch. And I think it's really useful to have people trying different things, being open and honest about how it went, and sharing that and iterating on that and using AI and somewhat anonymizing the people. There's just different ways of doing it
mm,
that we're not evangelists for that. We're just like, let's try this. We want to try this. We think it could be useful, and we'll be open and transparent about how it goes. I think that's a lot of what we talked about today. Is like that's my takeaway. Is
mm.
people sometimes form a really emotive, strong response, and it's like, let's just try things and report back. Maybe, and I think if more of us could spend more of our time with that
And I think
mindset,
just
we
to add,
probably would make progress
like
a lot
this,
quicker.
everything's set up so you can't. You don't have you have the rare opportunity if you have the privilege either to, or you have been given the chance, like our supporters, our funders have given us this opportunity to explore this. If you don't have that, then you can't try anything new. So I think with that, with great power comes great responsibility to quote Spider-Man. Well, I think it was Spider-Man's auntie in the comics. But yeah, so I think that's us
Yeah,
one asking
yeah.
ourselves why not. We've got the chance to. We have the opportunity
Mm.
to say let's try it, and if it does work, then it can be something we can communicate. And if it doesn't, then at least we've knocked on it and tried it, and then we can iterate off that.